Good evening and welcome to another edition of Filmnut. I am your host, Jeff Schubert. Glad you can join us. Well, as an independent filmmaker myself, I can tell you that almost every other week it seems like there's a new website popping up that covers the independent movie scene, whether you're talking about reviews, interviews, and more, all that kind of great stuff. Well, you know what? The site that's been doing it better and longer than most, if not all, is Film Threat, founded by my guest tonight, Chris Gore. In addition to Film Threat, Gore is the author of the Bible for filmmakers that are applying or going to film festivals. Of course, I'm talking about the Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide, now in its 4th edition. He is the resident film expert of G4's Attack of the Show, and I think he has another new show debuting soon. Maybe I can get the scoop out of him on that before this interview is over. In addition to all that, he is also the best wingman in the business, at least according to himself. Here he is, that Chris Gore.
Jeff, that's a great intro.
I'm glad you liked it.
That was awesome. Your writers are great. They do a great job. I love it.
Fantastic. I'll thank myself later. I'm glad you're coming on this show. You know, you've been on Rad Nerd on the Stream.tv, very funny interview. CoinOp TV, now the filmmaking show. I'm glad you're on here.
Why did I get here last? This should have been my first stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, now, as we know, you've recently sold Film Threat.
Yes, it's
right?
true.
It's been down for a little bit. It's coming back online tomorrow. You've sold it to good friend and former co-worker, partner Mark Bell, who is...
He's been on the show.
He's been on the show, exactly.
Yeah.
We had him on a little while ago. So just, if you can, in a few words, talk about the Gore legacy of Film Threat. Does it feel different? I know you said it was time for you to walk away from it, but does it feel strange now that it's coming back tomorrow and you're really officially, for the first time, all ties cut?
This, first of all, great question. I think you're channeling Larry King here. It's a very serious. I'm not used to getting asked serious questions, you know, not all the time. But no, I feel good about the fact that, as you pointed out in your intro, there are more outlets covering movies today than movies being made. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's like, what about, if you include, you know, shorts being, you know, made and put out on the festival circuit, about 8,000 films independently get made and go out on the festival circuit. About 400 movies are theatrically released every year. There are more outlets covering film than ever. So I think that Film Threat always had kind of a skewed, you know, way of looking at things, which was kind of the way I looked at things, and which would then attract other people who felt the same way. Basically, we're all a bunch of geeks. Right. And I'm just proud of the fact that I feel like that there's this whole large community now of people making films, sharing information. It's something that, God, you know, 25 years ago when I was a kid and started Film Threat, I mean, people weren't particularly revealing about information, real information about how to make films. Well, and you know, and you got into distribution a little bit to help filmmakers that couldn't get it anywhere else, and probably served as inspiration for a lot of these other sites that have since followed you. Well, I do try to, like, and this is in my book, I try to temper, you know, a little bit of passion and inspiration balanced with real-world advice. Things like, hey, you shouldn't make a movie on credit cards. That would be a bad idea. You know, for example, if you spend $30,000, which is around what Kevin Smith spent on Clerks. You put that on credit cards. If you only paid the minimum, it would take you 30 years to pay it off and cost you $100,000. So I suggest, if you know anyone in the mafia, a loan shark, their rates are cheaper than the credit card companies, and that's not a joke. Well, and of course the thing is, for every one, you know, Kevin Clerks and success story, you hear about the person who did their movie on credit cards. There's all the people that are paying it off 30 years later. Right, that's true. So that's tough. Well, congratulations on your run with Film Threat, and we certainly wish Mark Bell good luck and much success with the continuation of it. So the Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide, great book. I use this of do-it-yourself kind of books that are out there. Can't say that I've ever come across a better one, an absolute must for filmmakers. The 4th one has just come out. What's new, what's different about it? Does someone who has maybe, you know, the 3rd edition or the 2nd edition, are there things in it for them too? Well, I mean, a lot of the basic information is pretty much the same, updated to include things like Twitter and Facebook and whatnot, how those online resources can be utilized. So how to write a press kit, things you need to do while you're making the film. Those things remain pretty much the same. The reason, you know, why you're going to film festivals, a lot of people don't know why you're going to a film festival. Why don't you just put it up online? And you could do that, but I don't think you get the personal connection. And you know, while you could have something on YouTube and get 1 million views, you're almost, you know, there are advantages to going to a small film festival where you find a lot of philanthropic people, a lot of rich people go to film festivals, just so you know, and fund these things. They like to be patrons of the arts, and they've got deep pockets. So if you're looking to raise money for a future project, you're really serious about a film career, I think a film festival is a great way to go. Plus, you can win awards, you get reviews and feedback, and seeing your movie in front of an audience. Having an audience, a paying audience at a film festival, see your film. There's no better way to learn about how an audience sees your work. You can feel it in the room. And I mean, I've done focus testing at film festivals that did me a favor and let me show some early cuts, and you can really see what's working, what's not working. So that's incredibly valuable. But what's different between the two versions, to get back to your question, is that one of the things in the book that people respond to, get the most positive responses, the case studies, where you have people like Morgan Spurlock and whatnot talk about their own experiences, or Paul Rackman, documentary filmmaker. So I include all new case studies. The only reprint, I always have a reprint from a previous edition of the book. The only reprint is Morgan Spurlock, who used my book to sell Super Size Me and kind of kick off his career. It's fun to actually go to a festival and I'll meet people who now I respect, and they use my book. It feels kind of weird. Right. It feels weird. But what's different is the interviews are different, and then also the other component is there are no lists in terms of the listings of festivals. All of that is online. You get a code that's in the book, and then you get access to what effectively my goal is to turn this into the Wikipedia of film festivals, where filmmakers will share information and update this database, which is at ultimatefilmfest.com is the official site related to the book.
Now, people who are new to the party,
this is a very serious interview, you realize. I have not said vagina once, except for this time that I just said it.
It's the fact that you didn't say it.
In the fact that I just said that, right. Yes, so this is, many of you in the online world who are used to me being goofy, funny, and often drunk on an internet show such as this, right. I am now doing the serious version of me, so...
Well, at the end of the interview, I'll give you 30 seconds to say whatever you want in that time frame.
I could say vagina a second time.
Exactly.
I just did. I just did.
But I want to say, for people who are new to the party, who maybe aren't familiar with your book, so the festival list that you were referencing in the old books, old editions, you would list almost, if not all, certainly, tons of festivals, who to contact, how many they accept, the ratio, right. Types of films, all that sort of thing. And if you could, what are some of the other things that you cover in the book that people who might not be familiar with it, who are looking at you for the first time, possibly?
Well, really simple things that I think are just crucial to kicking off your career, because I really think that you can go to film school, and there's so many different methods to get into Hollywood. You know, Quentin Tarantino famously, worked at a video store. There's no real one consistent story. In fact, I think mostly if people go to film school, they end up, it's more difficult to get into the business because maybe you know too much. You don't have that. You have to be almost a little stupid to want to do this and be a part of this. But I try to offer practical advice. Like if you're at a film festival, you need to go to the top parties, and I don't usually have a problem anymore. But I think it's important to get into a party, so I offer these party crashing lines. One of my favorites. This is, first of all, just put on your poker face. You're going to try to get into a party. What I always like to do, this one always works, is you kind of sidle up to the bouncer at the front of the line, and you might carry a drink, a little pint glass, fill it with apple juice, maybe a little beer, maybe you've got a roadie on you. You have a little bit, just in the glass, and you just sidle up to that bouncer, you look him right in the eye and say, hey man, is it cool if I take this outside? Can I take this outside? And always the reaction is, you cannot take that outside the party. Get back in the party. It works every time. It's great because the only thing a bouncer can actually get fired for is allowing someone to leave the party with an alcoholic beverage.
That's great.
It's a law, apparently.
That's funny. Well,
there you go. Use that one. It's even good for parties that have nothing to do with film festivals.
And then when you're on the way out, tell them that Chris Gore says hello.
Yes, yes. Use that one.
Well, I'm going to get to some IMs, but also, the book is just loaded with things like talking about the team, producers, reps, managers, agents, publicists, how to make use of them, marketing supplies, film festivals. It's really an A to Z. Drink Moxie would like to ask or comment, how hard was it for you to sell Film Threat after being a part of your life for so long?
Well, it's weird because I started it when I was a teenager, like right out of high school.
As a magazine?
Yeah, exactly. I was in high school and I kind of got involved with these guys who did a zine called The Truth. And The Truth did these sort of gags like Santa Claus killed by terrorists. It was just goofy. This was back at Kimball High School in Royal Oak. That's where I'm from, folks, just outside of Detroit. And I wanted to start something that was like, there were a lot of zines out at the time. There was like skate zines and punk rock fan zines, and I was, of course, into punk rock music. I was a young punk, and I wanted to do it, but I wanted to make it about film, and I wanted to really cover movies that I was interested in. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a part of my life for a long time, but I kind of have branched out, you know. I mean, it started as a fanzine, kind of evolved from there. Larry Flint bought it in the early 90s, owned it for a period of time. Then the rights reverted back to me. I relaunched it as a website, relaunched it in print, and this was at a time when they raised paper prices. And then I started this website in '96 as sort of a fallback. We'll see what happens. And now the internet, of course, is, I mean, that's the preferred way to find information. It's, you know, print I really think is as a medium, it's great for things such as books. But when it comes to information and having it be updated, it's really the internet's the best way to go. It's my preferred medium.
Well,
I love it, but it does feel weird. But also, like, there's other things I've been itching to do. I kind of look at Film Thread as my tour of duty. You know, I kind of want to go and do it and learn everything and meet. Have an excuse to meet my favorite filmmakers, and I've been able to do that. And I've always wanted to do my own projects, you know, in terms of TV, film, and whatnot. And working on a couple projects right now, including, oddly, I've been approached. Okay, this is kind of like news. I've been approached by a couple different documentary filmmakers about doing a documentary about the 25 years of Film Thread, because there are a lot of crazy stories.
I can imagine.
For example, you know, you could get into trouble, actually, if you corresponded with someone who tried to assassinate the President of the United States. So when I wrote John Hinckley in prison, and very innocently as a kid said, hey, I'm doing this fanzine, would you like to write a review of Taxi Driver, the movie? Because that was what inspired you to try and kill Reagan. Would you mind? And then, of course, John Hinckley wrote me back. Unbeknownst to me, if you write someone who's tried to assassinate the President of the United States, people take notice.
People take notice.
People take notice. It's weird. So, you know, I printed, he didn't necessarily review Taxi Driver, but he gave his opinion, and I printed the letter. This is an early fanzine issue of Film Thread. And I interviewed Alan Moore. In fact, I just found it, these pages of, I interviewed Alan Moore. He had just written Watchmen, and there was talk of a Watchmen movie almost instantly. This is back in like '88. And I wrote to Alan Moore, and I did the interview via the mail. And he hand wrote his responses and would write little cartoons in the margin. And I have these original, I mean, I just typeset it and did the interview. It's a great interview. And he rarely does interviews. There's that same thing with Charles Bukowski. I interviewed him through the mail. This is before the internet, kids.
That's right.
It's before the internet, when we used phones and spoke to people with our mouths. The whole right here.
Well, it sounds like it could be a great documentary, but like I'm
leaving out the dramatic bits, but there's a lot of just weird stuff that a lot of people don't know. It's just funny to have these different audiences now with, you know, Attack of the Show and G4 is skewed a younger male audience. Like, if I was into 14-year-old boys, I would have my pick of ass. Pretty much. I don't think you have to bleep that. I think you can say that.
Yeah, but that's
you don't want to.
Kind of a topic that I'll just kind of skip over.
Let's skip over. Yeah. Yes, but they're completely unaware that, like, I do kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm not. I mean, don't let the douche haircut throw you off. I know what I'm talking about a little bit.
People kill for that hair, and I'm not just saying it because of my situation.
It can bend time.
I want to, let's see. I want to move on because there's several areas I want to cover with you.
Yeah.
Now, you've produced a movie, My Big Fat Independent Movie. If you were going to produce another movie, being a film critic, knowing as much as you do about film, and you can only work with one or the other, a great writer or a great director, which would you pick?
I'm going to pick a great writer because writing really is sort of these are the writers, the unspoken heroes in film, and that's why you see television currently going through a golden age right now. I mean, it's a renaissance where you know, gee, I guess I could watch this film. I don't know if it's going to be any good. Richard Kelly's The Box. It wasn't. Or I could watch season 2 of Mad Men, which was awesome, by the way. Do you believe what happened to Peggy? I can't believe that. She's totally going to bone that priest. But I think television is the arena in which writers rule, and that's why it's so good. And I wrote an essay about this on because I would write a column for SuicideGirls.com. I no longer do, but I also visit the site. Anyways, on Suicide Girls. I wrote this article about how TV is better than movies today, and it really is because of the writers. And the interesting thing that you notice when you really take a look at this is that TV writers exercise their writing muscles. They write something, and months later, they get to have the episode aired, and fan feedback on the internet is instant, and feedback from their peers in the writer's room is instant, and producers and ratings. They have all these different ways to get feedback. The feedback really you get for film is box office and critics. And usually the amount of time, average time between writer thinks of idea, movie in theaters, 7 years, and that's short. When it comes to TV, it can be as short as a few months. Work on a script, write it, shoot it, boom, it's on television.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say, a respected critic talk about writers being the unsung hero, because that was my personal opinion. But I just wanted to ask you.
Oh, so we agree on this?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
This isn't good. We need to disagree about something. You're really angry.
Well, there is something
Conflict.
I do disagree with you about that. Maybe we'll get to it in a little bit.
I can't wait.
But let's get to some IMs, because I'm being very selfish with my time with you. Silent would like to ask, have you ever been asked to do pornography? Any advice for those considering that path?
Advice for those considering that path.
I can't believe my executive producer let that
Why
one through.
did you, first of all,
I figure if any guest of Filmnut, let him handle it.
First of all, I don't have a problem with porn. I love porn. I think it's great. I just covered the AEE show for G4. I think there are really good porn directors out there. Andrew Blake, if you're a connoisseur of cinematography, he shoots all of his films with Bolex 16mm cameras, the old wind-up crank ones. I mean, and they're beautiful. I mean, his stuff is amazing. Never been in a porn other than maybe my own personal
Has someone asked you to be in
camera.
one?
Asked me? No. Oddly, no. Never been asked.
Are you sexting people? Are you doing any of that?
Sexting? Look, you know what? I have electronic devices.
Right.
I like to use all of the features of my electronic devices. So while I've not been asked to appear in a porn, maybe, what was the person?
The silence. So part two would be...
The silence is interested.
So advice for anyone who want to get into porn?
I have no advice whatsoever.
Okay.
I would say, I don't know. I would say drink pineapple juice. You can look up the benefits on Google. I'm not going to tell you what they are, because I can't think of a pleasant way to put it.
Moxie, what is the best and worst part of being on the Independent Film Award circuit?
I'm not really on the Independent Film Awards circuit. Maybe they meet in film festivals?
Yeah, maybe just being a personality within the world.
Oh, best and worst. Let's see. The best thing is just, I don't know.
Meeting people that you want to meet.
Meeting people. My favorite thing is really to go to a party, not one where they've got like the loud.
Right.
A
little louder for Brian. Yeah.
You can probably, sorry to broke. But those kind of parties where you can't talk to, I don't like that. It's like, it's literally like taking away my mutant superpower, my talking.
Right.
So I need to be able to be at a party where I can have a conversation, not too small, not too, just like, I'm actually most comfortable at like a dive bar, but I like to go to those and really just talk to people and hang out. The worst part is when I'm in a conversation, I can see someone waiting, and they're waiting for that moment, and they come up to me, and they just give me a postcard and say, hey, my movie is, they're trying to sell something without just trying to just have a moment where you can just sort of engage in conversation. When I'm there, I just like to get to know people, and then, oh, well, why are you here? Oh, you have a film, I'd like to go see it, now having spoken to you. But I don't like being sold,
No, it's
I
cool.
guess. You don't need to sell me. I'm here at the festival, I'll probably see your movie. Let's have a conversation, let's talk about stuff. Let's talk about custom modded shoes that I'm wearing like right now that are pretty badass, if you ask me.
Those are pretty badass.
These are great.
If we can get any kind of
if you can get a close-up of that.
I don't think you can get that Batman logo he's got on there.
See, here. Look it. There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah,
Look,
there it is.
I make these modded shoes. Now, I started making these shoes just for fun. I got everybody at G4 wanting me to make them for them. I got people hitting me up. I'm going to start charging. I'm going to start charging for my shoes now.
There's another
modded shoes.
There's another business for you. So G4 DVD Tuesdays.
Yes.
One thing I noticed in watching that is you spend about as much time talking about the extras that come on the DVDs as you do the actual movie itself.
Right. I'm really not in reviewing the movie. The movie's sort of come and gone, already in theaters, right? It's on DVD. You know, you're going to buy the movie on DVD if you like the film. What my purpose really is there to talk about the extras. I listen to all the DVD commentaries for all the DVDs that I review, and I even have wireless speakers in every room in my house, including the bathroom, so that I can, no matter where I am, I put on DVD commentary, I listen to it like radio. I'm addicted to it. It's like, it's my crack, is DVD commentary. So I do talk about it a lot, and I look for those just little nuggets of information I can pass along, so if you're not going to listen to commentary, at least give you a reason to listen to it. I mean, Bruce Campbell's particularly good at it, so is Steven Soderbergh.
One in particular that I noticed you liked recently was for Gamer. You were talking about how they stopped the film in the middle of it to then show you. Go ahead, I'll let you
on the
explain
Blu-ray version, and they've been doing these, they did it with Zack Snyder's Watchmen. They'll show the movie and the director's there. They'll pause the film, and then they'll do a little behind the scenes and show you exactly how they did it. So they're not just giving you a commentary, they're giving you sort of a blow-by-blow of how they did stuff. And it definitely made me appreciate that film more than I would have. What I did like the fact that they had that kind of attention to detail, that they really thought about, I mean, they make a teabagging joke in the opening scene. Right. So these guys know games, right? I thought that was cool.
So for the independent filmmaker, how important is it for them to A, watch all the DVD extras, and then to B, have good DVD extras for their work?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, you know, when I made my own film, that was as producer, I mean, I came up with the idea, hired a couple writers, worked with them. We were working on the title sequence before I'd even hired the director and finished raising the money, because I knew I wanted this big 2-minute opening cartoon title sequence with a song with the title of the movie in it.
It was excellent, by the way.
Oh, thank you. No, it's kind of a fun,
great
fun
song,
piece.
great opening. Yeah.
Evan Mather, who did the animation, who's had movies shorts at Sundance, is fantastic. I hope to work with him on something again. But I was actually, while the director was making the movie, I was working on all the extras. I'd even plan like half a day for interviews with the cast. You know, that was actually built into our production schedule. And then when we put out the double disc edition of my Big Fat Independent movie, there's an Easter egg on every single page. So when you go through the page of the extras, if you just sort of move the cursor around, you'll find there's a little extra. There's one that's behind the scenes, which Mark Bell actually edited all the behind the scenes documentaries. It's a security cam shot of him editing the behind the scenes of my Big Fat Independent movie, and he's sitting there, and it's like day 1, day 2, day 3. By day 4, he's got the same shirt on. He just smells his armpit, and then it goes to day 5, and he's got a different shirt on. It's sort of a cheap gag. Right. It's about 1 minute for that joke. But I mean, it was just like we were just coming up with ideas. It was almost like a parody of special features on a DVD.
So obviously, you think it's important.
It's extremely important, but also if you look at directors like Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, I mean, first of all, you know, when he began his career, there was no DVD; it was Laserdisc. But the Criterion Laserdiscs all had commentary, and it was those commentaries. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson would say, just listen to commentaries, film commentaries off of Laserdiscs. And that was how he learned a lot. I mean, I really think that there's just different paths. We were talking earlier. I think film festivals and making a feature or a short film and taking it on the festival circuit, if you do that for a year, that replaces, in effect, sort of what you would do in terms of getting a master's degree in film. If you can make a movie and take it on the festival circuit, I guarantee what you learn in a year is going to be better than what you do for your master's. I really think that that's replaced that, and I talk about that in the book.
I thought a great merchandising opportunity for you with that movie was to make T-shirts where that said words that you shouldn't put together, and you have one on the front and one on the back.
that would, yes, okay, yeah, that whole diatribe, I love that. I love those. You know, I don't know. A lot of the jokes in there kind of fell flat because they're jokes about subtitles. Right. You know, I mean, when you look at, and I think there's talk of doing L.A. art movie by the guys who've done some of these parodies. I think the parody genre is pretty dead. In terms of theatrical release, I think that parody and the kind of film satires are better on the internet. They're really better on things like YouTube and whatnot because they're so instantaneous. I mean, they're spoofs of, you know, something that happened, you know, the next day. So like the Jay Leno, you know, the Jay Leno new campaign, they replaced the song. It's get back to where you once belonged, and now someone just reran that whole thing, kind of recut it to Radiohead's Creep.
Very nice.
And it's awesome. Right. It's so good. Yeah. So it's instantaneous. I don't know that genre really works as a theatrical release or on I mean, it's really hard to do that. I mean,
because the media is so fast now. The turnaround is light years.
Yeah, my whole model was look at sort of the classic spoof films and how they really took like everything about the genre. You know, I kind of felt that independent film has been dead for a while. It sort of morphed into something else, especially with online. And that's what I was trying to say with that movie. By making the movie, it's like, look, indie film's kind of dead.
Right.
Kind of dead.
Let's get to some more IMs. Sergeant would like to ask or comment, do you think that films today are lacking a key element that would make them classics like the films in other eras? Oh,
that's a really good question. Because being an old dude,
right.
I'm an old dude. I'm an old dude. But you know, I'm youngish looking because this is the benefit to not getting pubic hair until you're like 16 or 17.
You kind of age slower later, right?
Exactly, but then I got my first gray hair when I was 19. Anyways, I'm a mutant of a different sort. Anyways, yes, the one thing I noticed, and this is one of my favorite moments that you see in older films, and you don't normally see this in movies today as much, and what that moment is, and I love this moment, and I will point this out to people, is characters thinking. When you see a character actually taking time to think, one of the best thinking moments you see is, of course, in The Godfather, Michael Corleone, thinking about his future, just sitting in that chair with his legs crossed, kind of like how I have him now, a little frightening. And then Luke Skywalker looking out at the twin sons of Tatooine while he's standing there sort of contemplating his future. That moment in film, the moment where a character thinks about their situation is generally not included, probably because it's just not considered important in whatever it is. I just feel like I miss that, the characters taking time to think about their situation. But also, those films are different today. I think that they're, you know, you can always talk about, oh, the stuff in the past is so much better than the stuff in the present. That's not true. There are things movies can do today that are amazing, and there are audiences today that I just think will not tolerate certain things that were done in older films. But I think that there's got to be a different way to show those types of moments.
I think ADHD enters in there somewhere as to the reason why, you know, that's the case.
Exactly.
You know?
Look at the monkey.
That's right. Exactly. Now, you recently commented on a review of Shutter Island that you said was the best review you've read all year. Forgetting the fact that the year isn't very old yet, I'm going to take that to mean you were really impressed with that review. What about that review impressed you so much?
I just thought it was just, first of all, it was a goof. It was more trying to be funny than anything else. I mean, the basic one-sentence opener to the review was, Shutter Island, replace the U with an I. There you are. I mean, I have not seen the film, but everything about it has been mixed. I have heard people love it and hate it. So, and that usually means that I'll probably love it. But I like movies that take risks. Of course, I like Scorsese.
And the reviewer loved Scorsese, but
right,
he just didn't like this particular film.
Yeah, I like to read reviews. I mean, I prefer to read reviews where I disagree. I always find that way more fascinating. I want someone to challenge me and show me something I didn't see in the film. Show me, this is what I always like to do. I mean, I think, to me, I always get asked this, you know, how do you be a good film critic? Which, first of all, I don't know why anyone would want to be a film critic now. I think there's no money in it. Look, are we getting paid? I don't know. I got a free soda. Evo, I love it. Citrus. But, you know, the thing is that you got to have, first of all, you have to have passion. No shortage of that online. There's plenty of people that have passion for film. You have to be a good writer. You know, grammatical skill, you should be able to form a sentence, and hopefully a couple sentences, you got a paragraph, you're making a point, and then thirdly, you need a sense of film history. And I think that usually there's no shortage of people with the first. The second two, good writing and film history. When I hear someone say, oh my God, Twilight is the best vampire movie I've ever seen, they probably have never seen another vampire movie.
Right.
Just a guess. Just a guess. So I love to read things that were, like, for example, I would point out to you that the film Planet of the Apes, the original with Charlton Heston, you know, where he's pounding his fist into the ground at the end. I don't think I'm ruining anything. You've seen this movie. Statue of Liberty. Not a spoiler. That film, the subtext of that film is all BDSM. I mean, if you're into the fetish world, that is, a person who's into fetish, that is their dream. You've got some, and because the ways characters are tied up in ways that aren't particularly normal. He's thrown in a cage, forced to have sex with this cave woman who's hot. And just all these things that they're chained, the way that these are chained up. Now you look at all the other Planet of the Apes movies, they don't have this sort of subtext, and it's not even subtext to me. If I showed you stills, and in an earlier issue of Film Threat, when we were in print, we hired a dominatrix to review Planet of the Apes to point this out. So those are things that I always like in film reviewing and writing about film, is show me something I didn't notice.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
We're starting to run short on time, so there's a few more things I want to get to. I alluded to something that I might disagree with you on a few minutes ago, so I don't want to leave the audience out on that.
Let's do it.
Back to film festivals.
Right.
The idea of your premier status for a festival. You call it your festival virginity or something, right?
Yes.
You can only lose it once.
Correct.
Correct. My thought on that is, if 5 or 6 months from now I can possibly get a job at Mercedes, I'm not going to put off trying to get a job today at Toyota or Honda, when in 6 months Mercedes might have 2 or 3 job openings that 5,000 people are going to be applying for. So so in other words, the idea of waiting for Sundance. If your movie screens somewhere before Sundance, they won't show it,
right,
kind of thing. What is your take on that?
Well, you definitely want to go for the big festival. You want to apply to Sundance, but where in the calendar your movie is complete, and if that actually makes sense. I know that most independent filmmakers plan their calendar around completing right around the Sundance deadline. That way they can find out right away, because Sundance kind of kicks off the year in terms of film festivals and what's coming out.
Around January.
Exactly. However, there's no right path. I mean, this is something I try to, and I point out in my introduction to the case studies section in the filmmaker interviews, basically, that the advice being given by all of these individual filmmakers they all contradict each other. And I think that a film, especially independent film, being such an individual work, what applies to one does not necessarily apply to another. You know, I mean, we premiered at CineQuest and South by Southwest within a week.
Festivals.
Yeah, 2 great festivals, and then ended up selling months later to Anchor Bay Entertainment, who put it out on DVD. We did a limited theatrical in 10 cities, and they gave us extra marketing money so that we could do those theatrical releases, the theatrical release. So there's no one answer for every film.
And within a year, there's certainly, whether it be South by Southwest, whether it be Hamptons International, LA Film Festival,
right,
year-round, there is always a great festival if you want to try to keep that festival premier status to one of the bigger ones.
In any sort of 3-month period, there's always the big ones. So yeah, I mean, again, it sort of just depends on what type of movie it is. If it's a really difficult film, in terms of subject matter, I think Sundance actually is better for that.
Right.
You know, if it's something in terms of comedy, horror, or music-based, I would say South by Southwest is probably your best bet for that type of film. Although Sundance shows really great, has a great Midnights.
Well, and that's another important thing, and why people should have your book, because you do a great bit of the research for them about the festivals. But again, absolutely go and do even more than that to find out which would be best for your film.
And also, I think the problem is, and I've had discussions with filmmakers, you can overthink this too much.
Yes.
You can be what I call a little too thinky. That's a little too thinky for me.
Right.
Stop being so thinky. And you know what? It's like you got to move on. You can't hold on to oh, we were rejected from Sundance. So what? Next.
Right.
Moving on. Next project. Next festival debut. Don't dwell on the failures. You know, just look forward to the successes.
Absolutely. Success is what makes you, and you just need to be successful a small amount of time to help you take that next step.
Yeah, you only need one distribution deal.
That's right.
You only need one. I mean, seriously, you just need one good one,
right,
one good festival debut. You know, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the great stories throughout, filmmakers like, Matt Damon with Good Will Hunting, Sylvester Stallone with Rocky, Chaz Palminteri with A Bronx Tale, rejected every which way, boom, it was the one acceptance that made it happen for them. Mm-hmm. Official Rejection, it is a documentary that you're interviewed. Real quick, as we're running short on time, what's it about, and do you think it's spot on or in its subject matter?
Absolutely. I mean, the guys who made this film made a great movie, 10 Till Noon, that was rejected on the festival circuit. So they kind of played rejected by the A-level festivals. They played these kind of B and C-level festivals and kind of documented their journeys. And they talked to people like myself, Kevin Smith, Brian Singer, other people from the festival world, and document their journeys, on the festival circuit, and Paul Osborne, who's the screenwriter of 10 Till Noon, did all of this documentation, and he paints a great picture. If you're a novice in the world of festivals, it's the perfect companion to my book. It really is the documentary that kind of explains the festival world in simple terms, like what is swag? Right. What are you supposed to do at a festival party? It kind of covers a lot of those bases, and in a fun way. It's kind of like a reality show. I keep saying to Paul he should repackage it and do some reality TV series, because they've got a lot of footage that they didn't use, and a lot of the best footage, of course, is the interview with me.
Of that Chris Gore.
And they should have had more of me. Although, actually, I did a commentary track with Paul, because we met on the festival circuit. We kept running into each other because my film was playing the festival circuit and theirs was as well. We kept sort of intersecting paths, which is great. It's like camping. That's what going to a festival is like. You keep running into the same people at the same camp. So yeah. He did a fantastic job, and I'm on a commentary track with Paul, like the secret commentary track, where we drank a lot of commentary juice.
And we're not talking about Evo.
A lot, yeah.
We love Evo, but we're not talking about that.
Oh, it's a little bit stronger than Evo.
So I mentioned in the introduction, you've got a new show. What's that about?
I'm going to be doing it next week, starting next week. Brian's got all the times and all that, he'll tell you, but it's That Chris Gore Show. That Chris Gore Show.
And where is it going to be premiering?
And it's premiering on the stream.tv right here.
Awesome.
Right here.
Welcome to the team.
Tuesdays at like 10 o'clock or something. I don't know.
And what's the theme of the show going to be? Is it going to be filmmaking?
First, it's not going to just be about, I'm going to talk about film, but it's really not just going to be about film. It's, I mean, I'll give you the first episode is actually going to be about film because it's just the week before the Oscars. Right. So I'm going to destroy all my Oscar screeners on camera. Probably about one every few minutes. We're going to find an interesting way to destroy it. And then we have a segment on the show called Meet Chris Gore, where I'm going to talk to other people named Chris Gore. I'm going to interview them. For example, there's a Chris Gore who's a professional fisherman. There's a Chris Gore who's a race car driver. There's a Chris Gore from Australia who's a renowned stock trader. There's a Chris Gore currently in college. Not me. These are all people not me, but we share the same name. I would like to get to know other Chris Gores. So that's one of the sort of segments that we'll be having on That Chris Gore Show, which you can tune in next week, 10 o'clock. I believe
Tuesday the 2nd?
Tuesday the 2nd will be the first episode.
At 10 o'clock Pacific time, right? Will be
10 o'clock Pacific
that'll
time.
Be live.
But it'll be archived. Brian knows about all this. He'll tell you.
He'll tell you.
Yeah, but yeah, starting next week, I'm going to be here once a week, do my gig at G4, go get drunk, and then come here and do the show. Well, I mean, come here and do the show.
Well, before we let you get out of here, because we know you got to go, and I thank you so much for coming in, do you have a favorite set speak term? Like back to one, or checking the gate, or martini shot?
Favorite, yeah, martini shot is, martini shot's a favorite, just because, of course, what's implied. Gosh, I really don't. I really don't have a favorite one. Martini shot's always fun.
That always works.
I always like to make one up.
Okay.
God, that shot, that's a perfectly cromulent shot.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's say it one more time. The website that is the companion to the Ultimate Survival Guide is?
UltimateFilmFest.com.
And even though you're doing your new show here, you're still going to be doing the G4 show, is that correct?
I'm doing G4 TV, yes, DV Tuesday. Doing that every Tuesday. And then, my personal website actually relaunches next week in conjunction with the show, which is thatchrisgore.com.
Fantastic. Well, it was a pleasure finally getting you to come into Filmnut, and now that you're a part of the network, maybe you can come back again sometime, because we only scratched the surface of what I wanted to talk about with you.
I'll come by, yes. Thank you, Jeff. You're awesome. These are really good questions. You don't always get good questions on these shows. This was awesome.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Forget Larry King. That guy way overrated Larry King. Geraldo, forget all those dudes. Forget him.
Let him keep going, Brian. No, I'm kidding.
Jeff, you're the man. No, sir, those guys douches. You're the man. You do your research. Look, and you don't have someone do it for you. I mean, look, worked in TV long enough. You know the phonies.
Right.
You know the phonies in TV where you go, oh yeah, that person, all of it's prepped for them. No, I know the stuff I'm coming on the show to talk about. You know, it's a matter of like, my problem is I talk too much. Can't you tell? We're trying to end the show. I'm still talking.
I'm trying to let him get out of here. He's got an appointment.
I gotta go. Actually, I gotta go to a screening. I gotta go
great
to a screening
deal.
of a movie.
Well, again, I do appreciate you so much coming on in. Thank you one and all for tuning in. That is going to do it for this edition for Filmnut. Be sure to check out Chris Gore's new show here on the Stream.tv, and I'll see you next time on Filmnut.